Fellow non-commissioned officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 501st Military Intelligence Brigade Non-Commissioned Officers Induction Ceremony. Please rise for the Korean Anthem, the National Anthem, and the invocation.
Our great God in heaven, as we come together for this NCO Induction Ceremony, may we be mindful of the service of those leaders who have gone before us. May we ask your blessings on the present leaders. May their decisions help our organization during this time of change. As we induct these new non-commissioned officers, give them the strength and courage to lead us and take care of soldiers. As we go forth from today in our work, to our homes, and to communities, keep us safe in our activities on land and in the sky. Bless these NCOs and let them not forget that they are professionals, non-commissioned officers, leaders. Amen.
Please be seated. The tradition of the induction ceremony is a rite of passage used by senior NCOs to instill in newly promoted sergeants the special pride and sense of esteem felt when a young soldier enters the NCO Corps. This ceremony gives them their first experience of the pride and respect that goes along with being a member of the NCO Corps. Today, we are here to formally acknowledge and induct 33 soldiers into the NCO Corps. Having been selected, trained, and duly promoted to the rank of corporal through sergeant, they will now face another transition, their induction into the NCO Corps. Being an NCO is more than acquiring skills, passing boards, or completing courses. It is a change in the mentality of how we conduct our day-to-day business. Our two basic responsibilities become the accomplishment of our mission and the welfare of our soldiers. We changed. Our frame of thought now focuses on mentoring, training, guiding, leading, and caring for the soldiers in our charge. We uphold traditions, dignity, and high standards. We willingly accept responsibility for the good or bad of those under our supervision. We possess the moral courage to correct what is wrong and recognize our soldiers for their accomplishments. We strive to develop our soldiers into consummate professionals dedicated to a culture of excellence. This metamorphosis from follower to a leader is required to become a part of the time-honored corps known as the backbone of the Army. Please turn your attention to the video presentation. At this time, let us pay tribute to the many eras of our past and present non-commissioned officers. From the Revolutionary War, Sergeant William Brown was awarded the Badge of Military Merit, precursor to the Medal of Honor. He was the father of the NCO Corps. We, the NCOs, form the backbone of the American Army. He instructed his recruits in all matters of military training to fire rapidly and true in battle. At the Battle of Yorktown, he led the assault on Redoubt Number 10, charging forward, heedless of musket fire and grenades, storming up the barriers with fixed bayonets. He led the charge that set our country free. The War of 1812. Corporal James Page from the 1st Kentucky Volunteer Mounted Regiment. He trained the men in his squad not only to care for their deadly long rifles, but also to scour and sharpen their hatchets. Before they took care of themselves, they took care of their horses. At the Battle of the Thames, he charged the British and their Indian allies, broke their lines, and opened fire on their rear, sending the vaunted British redcoats and their Indian allies into ignominious retreat and helping win our second war of independence. The U.S. Civil War. Musician Benjamin F. Hilliker from the 8th Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry, from whom the 101st inherited its Screaming Eagle patch. Medal of Honor recipient. He trained the regimental musicians to pass orders from the commander with their drums and bugles, to steady the men on the march and in battle with their music. In desperate battle, he dropped his drum for a musket and stood on the firing line 40 yards from the foe and fought until shot through the head. He represents the soldier's commitment to the Army value of selfless service. The Indian Wars. First Sergeant Jordan of Kilo Company, 9th U.S. Colored Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers, awarded the Medal of Honor. He enlisted in the Army at Nashville, Tennessee, and learned the soldier's trade. He then passed these lessons on to his men: how to be a man and a soldier, to ride, to shoot, and to speak the truth. At the Battle of Tularosa, New Mexico, with 25 of his Buffalo soldiers, he faced 300 Apaches, stood their ground, and saved the town. He represents the Army value of duty. World War I. Corporal John E. Gilberti of Echo Company, 327th Infantry, awarded the Distinguished Service Cross in the Meuse-Argonne Offensive. He trained his men in the ways of modern warfare, how to survive gas attacks, use hand grenades, fire machine guns, and to shoot the M1917 Enfield rifle with deadly accuracy, as well as how to engine and maneuver. He led multiple patrols into enemy-held territory, returning with vital information. He, too, represents the Army value of duty. World War II Female History. Staff Sergeant Evans, a glider-qualified soldier assigned to the 101st Airborne Division after the end of World War II. She helped with the endless administrative details needed in the G1 section to ensure a smooth transition from a wartime to a peacetime unit. And then, when this division was deactivated in November of 1945 in France. Women served proudly in the ranks in World War II and paved the way for women in the Army today. World War II. PFC Joe E. Mann. Posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor was original Camp Claiborne man, and he was with his buddies, training them and with them all the way from basic, AIT, jump school, to pre-invasion training, D-Day, and then he trained the replacement in what to survive the hell of combat. In Holland, he was wounded in both arms. Refusing to leave his buddies for safety in the rear, he stayed where he was needed with the 502nd and spotted the foe. When a grenade came into his hold, he did the only thing he could do to save his friends. He threw himself onto the grenade and made the ultimate sacrifice. He exemplified the Army value of loyalty. The Vietnam War. Staff Sergeant Joe Hershey awarded the Medal of Honor. His challenge was to train individual draftee replacements to his platoon in the harsh school of combat survival in Nam. In Vietnam, his platoon fought against overwhelming odds. Fearless of the foe to protect his men, he fought where the action was the hottest. When he died, it was with his face to the enemy. He personified the Army value of personal courage. Desert Storm. Sergeant First Class Atkinson of Delta Company, 227th Infantry, Rockasans. Bronze Star recipient. Never forget that rank is to allow you to execute your responsibilities to train and care for your men, which allows you to accomplish your missions. He trained his men to be the example, know their job, and do their best. He represents the Army value of integrity. Though its concepts have always been a part of our Corps, the creed of the non-commissioned officer has served as a guiding document for the non-commissioned officers since its inception in 1973. Each major paragraph begins with 3 letters, N, C, and O. These words have inspired non-commissioned officers and have served as a compass to guide us down the right paths that we encounter. Today, 3 NCOs will reaffirm their commitment to the professionalism of our Corps and maintain their part of the backbone of the Army. Please rise.
Knowing for President I'm a non-commissioned officer, a leader of soldiers. As a non-commissioned officer, I realize that I'm a member of the Time Honored Corps, which is known as the backbone of the Army. I am proud of the Corps of non-commissioned officers, but at all times conduct myself so as to bring credit upon the Corps, the military service, and my country, regardless of the situation in which I find myself. I will not use my grade or position to attain pleasure, profit, or personal safety. My 2 basic responsibilities will always be uppermost in my mind: the accomplishment of my mission and the welfare of my soldiers. I will strive to remain tactically and technically proficient. I am aware of my role as a non-commissioned officer. I will fulfill my responsibilities inherent in that role. All soldiers are entitled to outstanding leadership. I will provide that leadership. I know my soldiers, and I will always execute both on my own. I will communicate consistently with my soldiers and never leave them uninformed. I will be fair and impartial and recommend both rewards and punishments. Officers in my unit will not have to accomplish their duties. They will not have to accomplish mine. I will earn their respect and confidence as well as that of my soldiers. I will be loyal to those whom I serve, seniors, peers, and subordinates alike. I will exercise initiative by taking appropriate action in absence of orders. I will not compromise my integrity nor my moral courage. I will not forget nor allow my comrades to forget that we are professionals, non-commissioned officers, leaders.
Please be seated. Fellow non-commissioned officers. Fellow non-commissioned officers, ladies and gentlemen, the Command Sergeant Major of the 532nd MI Battalion, Command Sergeant Major Carlos Simmons.
I guess I should have rehearsed that part too, come on stage. Colonel Austin, Major Scales, Major Bolton, distinguished guests, fellow Command Sergeant Majors, First Sergeants, non-commissioned officers, and soldiers of Fire Force and my brigade, good morning. Welcome to today's ceremony. But before I begin, if we could just give a round of applause to the guys who put this together. My son Mahan, son First Class Horn, Staff Sergeant Garner, Sergeant Leathers, Sergeant Munoz, Sergeant Sierra, Sergeant Wyndham. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, this has not been an easy week for them. As you know, we really came together Monday. We had our first rehearsal, I think. We we just put this thing together, but it's been a lot of hard work and sacrifice. As non-commissioned officers, sacrifice is what we do. It's part of it's just part of the job. You know, I was thinking last night, what is it that I'm going to talk about today? You know, I have a whole lot of things. You know, I had, you know, conversations with officers throughout the week to reflect on in regards to junior non-commissioned officers, conversations with my wife. And then, you know, really what drove it home this morning was a conversation with Colonel Elsie in regards to our NCOs. And, you know, it was more of an eye-opener. You know, this ceremony is not just for our inductees. It's for everybody. You know, everyone can learn at any given moment. You know, it's always out there. You know, it's for the NCOs, guys who've been NCOs for maybe a little while longer than these guys, or guys who've been NCOs as long as I have. We can all learn from these opportunities that we all come together. So with that being said, you know, I'm going to hit 5 key points, you know, and then I'm going to discuss them a little bit. You know, you're now entrusted with an incredible amount of responsibility, which is leading soldiers. You know, that should say enough. You know, if you've been brought up by the Army, you know what that means, probably put those stripes on. You know, but the honest truth is not all of us do. Being a non-commissioned officer is not a 9-to-5 job. It's not just something that we do when we get up for PT in the morning, and then we go home at night. We stop by the mail room on the way out at about 1700, 1730. It is a calling, 365 days a year, 24/7. And you have to take it that, you have to be that serious about it. Remember what your most valuable asset is. Your most valuable asset is not the new piece of equipment that you just got. It is not D6 Alpha. It is not the new Humvees and motor pool. It is not the new parts and pieces that were slapped on the ARLs. It is not the new headphones that you get when you sit back. Your most valuable asset is your soldier, because none of that stuff works without a soldier sitting behind you. And you have to understand that. You have to invest in your soldiers. That is your most valuable asset. That is your primary system. All that other stuff comes second. Number 3, standards are in place for a reason. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Youngstown, you know, and doing my sergeant major thing. You know, I developed a couple of pet peeves, and soldiers standing around with their hands in their pockets. You know, that's kind of a pet peeve has become mine, because I see it so much here. And so, you know, I had a young sergeant with me, and, you know, after like the 3rd or 4th guy, you know, he was like, how do you see these guys? You know, I asked him, you don't see anything wrong with it? You can't identify someone when they're standing with their hands in their pocket? That's pretty obvious. That's blatant. You know, but he didn't see any of the guys that I saw before. And, you know, with that being said, we have standards for a reason. They're in place because they need to be there. And once you deviate from a standard or allow a standard to be lowered, then you just set a new standard. And we go through this day after day after day after day. I know my NCOs even talk about it. 3rd MI, 719, 524. You know, my fellow CSMs, they're going through the same thing. The first person to make a correction should not be a first sergeant or command sergeant, because I'm pretty sure there's a staff sergeant, a sergeant, or sergeant first class, a specialist, or a corporal that could have made the on-the-spot correction prior as even seen it. You know, it's like that one cigarette butt all of a sudden turns into 200 cigarette butts because no one said, pick them up. Number 4, in order to be an effective leader, your soldiers do not have to like you. And this is a very difficult thing. You know, a lot of guys, they just don't get it, especially our young non-commissioned officers and even some of our older non-commissioned officers. Your soldiers don't have to like you. You know, being in charge is not a popularity contest. You're not here to make friends. You're here to get a job done. You know, part of that job is requiring your soldiers to do difficult things. Some of those things may be hazardous in nature, such as jumping out of airplanes. You know, conducting air assault operations, sling load operations, those type of things. You know, if you have to tell a soldier, grab your weapon, get in the vehicle, or hey, get up in the cupola, you're now an N2 gunner. That's hazardous. But if you're friends with your soldiers, if you're trying to win a popularity contest, then there's going to come a point where there's going to be hesitation on both either you or the soldier, or maybe even both. You guys got to get beyond that right here, right now. Prior to you moving any further in your career, you know, yes, I would like it if all of my soldiers loved me, but I don't really need the love, I need the respect. What I need is for them to execute without hesitation or mental reservation. That's what you need. Because your leaders expect the same thing of you. And they will hold you accountable for your failures and your successes when it comes to your soldiers. Number 5, and this one came about very recently. Don't ever make a decision based on emotion. Don't make a decision because you're mad, because you're happy, because something you're about to do makes you feel good. You make a decision based on proven plan, deliberate decision making. That's how we make decisions in the military. When I went to the 101st, my last assignment, I had the opportunity to be mentored by Command Sergeant Major Scott Schroeder, wise man. He's now at 3rd Corps, and I used the 3rd Corps CSM down at Fort Hood. And I learned a lot. One of the very first things I heard him say was, every movement is a movement of contact, and every halt is a defense. And, okay, for me, I'm like, okay, that's common sense. But what he was really trying to get to is everything that we do is deliberate emotion. We don't haphazardly do anything. When we get to the point where we, based on emotion, we do a lot of things. And we put soldiers' lives in danger. 1, mission failure. 2, waste of assets. So be deliberate in everything that you do. All right. With that being said, I'm not going to talk a whole lot because it's hot. And I know you guys want to get on. We got lunch waiting for us over at the flight line. So we're going to go ahead and proceed further, or proceed on with the rest of the ceremony. But once again, Master Sergeant Lahan, thank you. And everyone who was working with Master Sergeant Lahan to put this together. Thank everyone who made it to the ceremony. Spread the word, because we want these things to be better. We want them to be bigger. There's 3 battalions from the 501st here on Camp Humphreys, and we got less than a couple of individuals sitting there, and half of those individuals, or a third of them, are the ones that are being inducted. This is for everyone when we have these induction ceremonies, from E1 to 05 or 06. Everyone that's assigned to this brigade, family members, and also our civilian counterparts who work with us. Thank you. Who will sponsor these non-commissioned officers for induction into the Corps?
Command Sergeant Major, Sergeant First Class Dr. Charles Horn Jr., HHSC, 532nd, Spartans, will sponsor these sergeants into the non-commissioned officer corps.
Command Sergeant Major, I, First Sergeant James Jeffrey III, from Alpha Company 532nd Renegades, would like to proudly sponsor these non-commissioned officers into the Corps of non-commissioned officers.
Command Sergeant Major, I, First Sergeant Ulysses Grant Martin, would like to sponsor these sergeants to the ranks of the non-commissioned officers corps.
Command Sergeant Major, I, Sergeant First Class Stager, 30 Mile Battalion, Wing Vigilance, would like to sponsor these sergeants into the ranks of the non-commissioned officer corps.
Command Sergeant Major, I, Sergeant First Class Boyle, Alpha Company, 524th MI Battalion, Silent Vigilance, would like to sponsor these sergeants into the Corps of Non-Commissioned Officers.
Command Sergeant Major, I, First Sergeant Jerry Bruce Showers, 790 and 5 Battalion, John Borders, would like to sponsor these sergeants into the ranks of the Corps of Non-Commissioned Officers.
Fellow non-commissioned officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now proudly induct our newest non-commissioned officers into the NCO Corps. Sergeant Jacob Cockrell. Sergeant Flor Yanas Mohar. Sergeant Timothy Alexander. Sergeant Brett Calhoun. Sergeant Nat Ho Che. Sergeant Jonathan Hu Chin. Sergeant Mark Jennings. Sergeant Caitlin C. Jones. Sergeant Stephen A. Keith. Sergeant Gung Lei. Sergeant David Morton. Sergeant Charles Parameters. Sergeant Ricardo Persona. Sergeant Stephen Rudney. Sergeant Derek Skelchuk. Sergeant Travis Smart. Sergeant Christopher Smith. Sergeant Val Tanner. Sergeant Beth A. Van Vliet. Sergeant Karen Veal. Sergeant William C. Veal. Sergeant Brian Vidler. Sergeant Laverne Wheeler. Sergeant Johan Vissing. Sergeant G. Min Yu. Corporal Yong K. An. Corporal Ju-Won Chu. Corporal Shane Daughtry. Corporal Seong Hyun Han. Corporal In Sung Kim. Corporal Hong Wan Lee. Corporal Justin Miles. Corporal Soon Chan Park. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our newest inductees into the Non-Commissioned Officers Corps.
All NCOs present, please rise. Raise your right hand. I will discharge carefully and diligently
I will discharge carefully and diligently
the duties of the grade to which I have been promoted,
the duties of the grade to which I have been promoted,
and uphold the traditions and standards of the Army.
and uphold the traditions and standards of the Army.
I understand that soldiers of a lesser rank
I understand that soldiers of lesser rank
are required to obey my lawful orders.
are required to obey my lawful orders.
Accordingly, I accept responsibility for their actions.
Accordingly, I accept responsibility for their actions.
As a non-commissioned officer,
As a non-commissioned officer,
I accept the charge to observe
I accept the charge to observe
and follow the orders and directions given by supervisors,
and follow the orders and directions given by supervisors,
acting according to the laws, articles, and rules
acting according to the laws, articles, and rules
governing the discipline of the Army.
governing the discipline of the Army.
I will correct conditions detrimental to the readiness thereof.
I will correct conditions detrimental to the readiness thereof.
In so doing,
In so doing,
I will fulfill my greatest obligation as a leader,
I will fulfill my greatest obligation as a leader,
and thereby confirm my status as a non-commissioned officer.
and thereby confirm my status as a non-commissioned officer.
Please be seated.
Often and without hesitation, we make requests or demands from our soldiers. We expect them to execute and do so expeditiously. Let us not forget what is required of us as NCOs. Ladies and gentlemen, a soldier's request.
Treat me with respect, Sergeant, for no heart is more loyal than the heart of an American soldier. Do not beat my spirit with your words, Sergeant, for though I will do what you demand, your guidance, patience, and understanding will help teach me to do, be, and know.
Speak with me often, Sergeant, for the praise and counseling you give is expected. I'm an American soldier expecting to be trained. Discipline must be a part of my life. Train me for the elements, Sergeant, for I must learn to fight and win in the cold, the wet, and the desert. Those who will be my enemies will use these elements. I must be prepared.
I ask no greater glory, Sergeant, than to defend our country and our way of life. Against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, allow me that privilege, Sergeant. Train me.
Provide me the necessities of food and drink, Sergeant. Train me to be self-sufficient, so that I may lead the way, and stand ready, willing, and able to protect you, with my life if necessary, should your life be in danger. Train me, Sergeant, so that one day I too can be called Sergeant, trainer of soldiers.
Backbone of the Army, train me to accept the responsibilities that are yours. Train me to train my soldiers to be the greatest defenders of freedom in the world. Sergeant, train me to be a sergeant. I shall leave the Army knowing with my last step and my last breath that my fate was always safest in your hands. Sergeant, train me that I too can earn the title Sergeant.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remain in place for the playing of the Army Song. Please be seated. The non-commissioned officers of the 501st Military Intelligence Brigade would like to thank you for attending today's ceremony. Please take the time to congratulate our inductees and join us for a reasonably priced lunch at the Flightline Cafe.
Red Dragons!
Who are?